Hello, friends. I welcome you to episode 3 of Pivotal Moments. Pivotal moments are those precise moments in time that has the power to change the trajectory of our life. Today, I bring to you a story from my coaching world. This is a story of coveting, story of constant comparison, something that we all commonly do, and how that might lead to getting stuck in life. Meet Himmat. Himmat is here at his favorite spot after having run a very bad performance review. Receiving his feedback for his performance, Himmat today left his office a little early than the usual time because he wanted some time for his own self, time to reflect, time to introspect. Therefore, he chose the spot where he could find some inner silence and think through of all the things that actually have led him to this situation. This is Himmat's favorite spot. So he came in, stood there, wondering about many things. His mind is filled with a lot of events from the past and fears of the future. He's completely confused and also tired and exhausted. He kept staring at the sky as the sky turned dark and the day was coming to an end. To understand Himmat and his story, we may need to go a little back in the past so that we could understand what brings Himmat to this day and this situation. Himmat was not always like this. He had a brilliant track record being a good performer, and so far, 7 years into his firm, he was not just experienced but a skilled worker. Well, regardless of that, today, with his performance appraisal and a very below average review, Himmat is into a very different state of mind. Let's get into a little more details to understand how he got here. 3 years ago, Himmat was promoted to a very senior level position based on his solid performance track of past 5 years. This new position brought him a fat paycheck, lot of benefits, but along with that, some additional responsibilities. The key was he was supposed to now lead a team of 7 members. He had 3 different stakeholders in 3 different locations of the world. The project was challenging and complex, and the clients very demanding. For the initial years, it was easy for Himmat because he was confident about his track record, he was confident about the work, and he took everything with a lot of positivity and enthusiasm. His supervisor also believed in his skill and competence, and while promoting him, they knew very well that he would carry forward the role with the same way he has been performing in the organization. But little did anyone knew what was stored in for the company and also for him. This is a very common mistake usually even firms commit along with the HR and the individuals who may arrive at a certain juncture in careers where regardless of the extreme well experience into complex projects and work, getting into roles of leadership, being first time senior managers, being into a role which requires a lot of stakeholder management or dealing with demanding clients. A past track performance is not enough. There's a lot one need to equip the employee with so that they are good enough to lead and also to move ahead. In a nutshell, what brought him to this role, but not necessarily that would take him ahead. And that's exactly where the whole issue started. The first year of his performance was excellent. But after the first year, the second and the third year, Himmat found that he was losing ground with his work. He was a disengaged worker. He lacked productivity. He found himself being pulled out of his comfort zone, and he was not trained enough to lead a project of this level. The glamour was fine, but the real realities of such a complex project took a toll on him, his mind, his confidence level, more so to a level that Himmat started to disengage so much from his work that he was all the more trying to explore what best that he could do instead of what he could do within the job to really improvise on himself. The major gap here was neither Himmat was aware of what exactly was at play, and his role constantly demanded him a lot. The second and the third appraisal were as average as this one. This was a tough one, and after this appraisal, as Himmat sat in the dark with a completely new mind shift and a new perspective, thinking of altogether quitting the job and the role because he was exhausted and tired. Appraisal issues, the state of mind went on for few more days. And coincidentally, Himmat got a call from few of his batchmates, his alumni group, who were in town and were meeting for just a catch up. It was a pandemic time, and it's been a long since he connected back with his college mates. So he took this opportunity, which could help him, or perhaps even provide him the refreshing, fresh break that he was in need of. So he thought it was a good opportunity for him to reconnect back with his friends. And therefore, he quickly accepted the invite and looked forward to connecting with his friends. The union of friends, batchmates, some of his even school friends was a great event. Himmat was very happy. It brought him not just a relief to his tired mind, but he got some real excellent ideas. But at the same time, some of his friends, who he considered, according to him, were now way more successful. Now, this was precisely because of Himmat's own assumption and comparison that he got into. He saw some of his friends had joined their family business. He saw some of his friends were now started up on their own ventures and were like entrepreneurs. And then he started to compare himself, them with his own self, and constantly thought to himself, what is he doing with his current role? And on top of that, the recent appraisal added fuel to the fire. He was constantly reminded of that he was stuck in a wrong job. He he was not at all satisfied with the way his career was moving. He felt his friends were very happy, very fortunate, and extremely lucky to have found what they really wanted. They were pursuing their passions, they were satisfied in their marital lives, while Himmat was struggling at all fronts. He was also had developed some trust issues with his partner. He could not really give enough time to his family, which has also taken a toll on his mental state of mind. And this constant comparison went on and on. So the more he spoke to his friends, the more he learned about their lives. He constantly was in a mode of comparison. He sat back, he wrote about how good they were and how little he found success in his life. This made him move into a completely different state of mind. To him, it was as if he was the only one suffering, only one stuck, and only one lonely in life. while his friends, including acquaintances and his friends from his college days, whom he never thought were as skilled as he was or as competent as he was, were equally doing way above and enough in their life while he was just struggling in his new role. When I and Himmat we met for our first session of coaching, Himmat came across as someone with a very sad demeanor. He was not just exhausted and tired, but was very skeptical as to how coaching would really help him find a way out of what he was into. He was lost, and the most key point that I observed was he has lost faith. He was more of someone who's resigned to faith and kind of this resignation has brought him into a very depressed state of mind. He thought it was no use working on anything, no hope. Maybe perhaps this is what his life was supposed to be. So it took a bit of a time for both of us to really arrive at the root cause of what exactly was bothering him. I applied a very simple technique, a technique through which I helped him understand. The first thing was the trigger point, what led him to this chain of thoughts. Oftentimes we complicate our lives by a lot of things getting on in our head and thinking that we are headed nowhere. But what many do not realize that some simple set of techniques and questions can actually even bring you out of the most complex and complicated situations. One of the techniques that I have been using with Himmat, in this specifically in this case, was called the Johari window. This was developed by two behavioral scientists, Joe and Harry, and together it's been titled as Johari window. In the parlance of psychology, blind spots is things which we are not really aware of. But however, if one seeks help and we try to correct them, there can be a major successful improvement that one could bring in, not just in ourselves, but also in our life. So for him, the first thing that I assisted him with was to was to just not look inward, but to understand what exactly brought him to this state of depressed mind, this constant comparison of this coveting. And interestingly, he himself, through these techniques, found the many faulty assumptions that he had held in his mind. Assumptions about the friends, group, and events and experiences, which made him draw a completely different conclusion in comparison of his friend's life to his own. What Himmat failed to realize is that we all live a unique and different lives. Meeting our friends in one of the events and getting to learn only a bit or few, let's say 5% of their total life, is not what their real life is all about. We do not know what's beyond, what's in their personal issues, what is it that they are dealing with. So the moment Himmat kind of pinpointed out his own faulty assumptions through one of the journaling techniques, including the blind spot techniques, making him a bit more self aware. He realized that it was not one, but perhaps I think we figured out seven faulty assumptions, which were taking a heavy toll on Himmat's mind. This tool helped him get rid of these assumptions, question them, and understand what exactly made him and got him into a situation such as this, where he, from a competent, skilled, a good performer, to someone who's just uselessly coveting what others have, constantly comparing, getting into a vicious circle of stress and depressed mind. This particular assignment we did for almost close to around 3 months, and over a period of time, Himmat realized that it's not that difficult to build in these assumptions. What was more difficult to reason them out and to let them go off and replace them with more better approach and positive thoughts. However, after a hard work and combined efforts of me and him, we were actually able to really let go of all the assumptions, the faulty ones, which Himmat has developed over this period of time. He also understood about his own role, the gaps that were there, which has no relevance and connect to the life that his friends were living, and what best approaches and actions that he needs to do to really get going in the appraisal that he had received. Because not all was lost, and with some minute changes, even in his own work, because he was already a skilled worker. Small changes here and there, letting go of these faulty assumptions, understanding his blind spots, really helped him find a way out of the conundrum that he was in. He understood not just what brought him here, but he also understood now that he was into this role, what was expected of him, and what brought him here may not necessarily be what will take him to the next level. To perform at the next level, Himmat was in need of another plan that would be a little more forward leaning, leaving back his comfort zone and working towards some real fresh goal and plan in action. So friends, that was the story of Himmat for you. If just like Himmat, if you feel you're stuck in life or you've been having a recency effect of a bad performance review, or of a supervisor which you feel is very difficult to deal with, my suggestion is reach out and connect. You find my coordinates on your screen right now. So instead of getting into a vicious circle of coveting, constant comparison, or of building faulty assumptions, which will head you nowhere, rather can even make you lose your direction. Seek help, get clarity and your direction in life so that you pave your way to success. Thank you.